It's 11:40 at night. Bean has been lying in the same position for almost 2 hours. He hasn't moved. He hasn't checked his phone. He isn't scrolling, and he isn't reading. And he isn't doing any of the things people do when they can't sleep. He's just lying there, staring at the ceiling. And here's the strange part. He isn't tired. Not in the way you'd expect. His body is heavy. His eyes hurt. He worked all day. He ate. He showered. He did everything right. But his mind is completely, relentlessly awake because Bean is rehearsing, not a speech, not a presentation. He's rehearsing a conversation that has not happened yet and might never happen at all. And tonight he will run through it in one form or another, somewhere close to 200 times. If you've ever done this, you already know exactly what I'm describing. And you might have spent years quietly believing it means something is wrong with you. It doesn't. By the end of this, you're going to understand precisely what Bean's mind is doing right now, why it refuses to stop, and why the usual advice, just stop thinking about it, has never worked and was never going to. To understand tonight, we have to go back about 9 hours. It was an ordinary afternoon. Bean was at his desk, doing ordinary work. Someone walked past him, someone he sees every day. Someone whose opinion matters to him more than he'd like to admit. And they said 5 words. "Hey, can we talk later?" That's it. That's the whole thing. They didn't sound angry. They didn't sound cold. They said it in the same tone you'd use to ask about lunch. And then they kept walking, and the afternoon continued exactly as it had before. For them, that sentence took 2 seconds, and then disappeared completely. They have not thought about it since. They almost certainly don't remember saying it. For Bean, that sentence has not ended yet. He said sure, and he smiled, and he turned back to his screen. And then he read the same paragraph 4 times without absorbing a single word of it. Because a question had already opened in his mind, and it had no answer. Talk about what? Here's what happened over the next 9 hours. At first, it was almost manageable. A background hum. Bean kept working, and the thought sat quietly in the corner of his mind, waiting. But by 4 o'clock, it had moved closer. He started reviewing everything he'd said that week, everything he'd sent. Was there an email that sounded short? Did he miss something? Was there a moment where he'd said the wrong thing without noticing? By 6, he had built the first version of the conversation. In this version, it's fine. They just want to ask him something small. He imagines himself relaxed, saying something easy and it ending in 10 seconds. He held on to that version for maybe 20 minutes. Then his mind said, "But what if it isn't?" And it built the second version. In the second version, they're disappointed. Not angry. Disappointed, which is worse. And Bean rehearses what he'd say. He tries out an explanation. He tests the tone. He adjusts it and tries again. By 9 o'clock, there were 7 versions. By 11, he had lost count. And here's the pattern that matters. The pattern almost nobody notices about themselves. Each new version is a little worse than the last. The endings get colder. The imagined faces get harder. Bean is not rehearsing a conversation. He's slowly building a case against himself. By 11:40 p.m. in the version he's rehearsing now, he's already lost something. Over 5 words. That probably meant nothing. So let's talk about what's actually happening in there. Because it isn't random, and it isn't a defect. The mind hates unfinished things. There's a well-known idea in psychology that people tend to hold on to interrupted or incomplete tasks far more strongly than completed ones. It's usually credited to the psychologist Bluma Zygarnik, who noticed that waiters seem to remember unpaid orders vividly and then forget them almost the moment the bill was settled. Think about that. The information didn't get harder to remember. It stopped being needed. So the mind released it. That's the key. Your mind isn't keeping this open because it's broken. It's keeping it open because, as far as it can tell, the thing is still happening. And here's what makes it feel so unfair. Closure doesn't require good news, it just requires an ending. This is why bad news is so often followed by an unexpected, almost guilty sense of relief. People describe it constantly. The diagnosis, the rejection, the breakup, and they say some version of the same thing. At least now I know. The situation got worse. The noise got quieter. Bean doesn't have that. He has 5 words and a 9-hour silence. So his mind does the only thing it can do. If it can't get the ending from the world, it manufactures one. It writes a version, and then it checks that version and finds it uncertain and writes another one. That's not overthinking as a character flaw. That's a system doing its job with no information to work with. But there's a second question here, and it's the one that bothers Bean the most. Why now? He was fine at 2 in the afternoon. Not comfortable, but functional. He got through the whole day, and the moment he lay down, it arrived at full volume. 2 reasons. The first is competition. All day, his mind had other things to hold. Tasks, noise, movement, other people. The thought was there. But it had rivals. At 11:40 at night, in a dark and silent room, it has none. It isn't louder than it was at 2 o'clock. It's just the only thing left in the room. The second reason is more important. During the day, action is possible. He could have walked over and asked. The option existed, even if he didn't take it. And a mind that believes resolution is possible can afford to wait. At night, that door is closed. Nothing can be done. Nobody can be asked, so the mind, unable to act and unable to close the loop, does the only remaining thing available to it. It simulates, over and over, looking for a version it can accept. That's not weakness. That's a problem-solving system running at full power on a problem it has been given no way to solve. At 11:52, Bean tries to stop. He tells himself firmly, "Stop thinking about this." It works for about 4 seconds. Then it comes back, slightly stronger. He tries again. It's probably nothing. And some part of him immediately answers, "But what if it isn't?" This is worth sitting with for a moment, because most people have spent years doing exactly this and concluding they simply lack discipline. Telling yourself to stop thinking about something requires you to keep the thing in mind in order to monitor whether you've stopped. You have to hold it to check it's gone. The instruction contains the thing it's trying to remove, and it's probably nothing fails for a different reason. It's a guess. It has no more authority than the darker guess sitting next to it. So the mind quite reasonably does not accept it and goes back to work. Bean isn't failing at this. He's using tools that were never going to work on this kind of problem. At 12:04, Bean sits up. He turns on the small lamp beside his bed. He finds a piece of paper, and he does something slightly strange, which is going to look far too simple to matter. He writes down the worst realistic outcome, not the catastrophic one. His mind offers the catastrophic one immediately, the one where everything falls apart. He sets that aside because it isn't the honest answer, it's just the loudest one. He writes the worst outcome that could plausibly follow from 5 neutral words spoken in a hallway. Something like, "They're unhappy with something I did, and I'm going to hear about it tomorrow, and it will be uncomfortable." Then, underneath it, he writes one more line. "And if that happens, what would I do next?" And he answers it. Not perfectly, just concretely. I'd listen. I'd say I hadn't realized. I'd ask what would help. And then I'd go home. That's all. 2 lines on a piece of paper. Here's why it changes something. He hasn't found out what they wanted. He has no new information about the world at all. But the loop was never really about information. It was about an ending. And he just gave it one. Not a happy ending. A survivable one. The mind can release a scenario it has an answer to. It cannot release one that's still open. He also did something else without noticing. He moved from a moving target to a fixed one. All night, the scenario had been shifting. Every version slightly different, slightly worse, impossible to resolve because it never stopped changing. On paper, it stopped moving. And a thing that stops moving can finally be looked at. I want to be honest about what happens next because this is where most explanations lie a little. The thought doesn't disappear. Bean turns off the lamp, lies down, and it's still there. Quieter, but present. Around 12:20, it comes back once more, and he notices it, and this time he doesn't fight it. He just thinks, I already know what I'd do. And it passes. He falls asleep somewhere around 12:30. Not peacefully. Just eventually. That's not a triumph. It's a slightly quieter night than the one he was going to have. And here's the part worth keeping. The next morning, that person walks over and asks him something completely unrelated to anything he imagined. It takes about 40 seconds. They're not upset at all. 9 hours of rehearsal, and none of the versions were right. That will probably happen again. It happens to almost everyone who does this. And knowing it doesn't stop it. Because the mind isn't running these simulations to be accurate. It's running them to be prepared. If you're lying awake right now, replaying something somebody said, you're not broken, and you're not weak, and you're not doing this because you lack discipline. You're holding something that was never finished. And your mind is doing exactly what it was built to do with unfinished things. Keep them open, keep them loud, keep them close, until they resolve. So it doesn't need you to fight it. It needs an ending, even a small one. Even one you wrote yourself on a piece of paper at midnight without knowing anything new at all. Write down the worst realistic outcome. Then write what you'd do next. Not to feel better, just to make it stop moving. Bean sleeps. The light is off. The paper is on the table. The conversation still hasn't happened. But for the first time in 9 hours, his mind isn't looking for an ending, because it already has one.